The NBA Finals just wrapped up, so before the league goes quiet for a couple months, I want to look at a team that isn't talked about enough right now, the Utah Jazz. Utah holds the number 2 pick in this year's draft. The Wizards have won, and depending on who you ask, Utah might actually prefer the player who falls to them over the top guy. The top 2 names on the board are Darryn Peterson and AJ DeBonsa. Peterson the better prospect in my opinion. He's a big guard, 3-level scorer, and the kind of shot making that translates immediately. But the gap isn't massive, and whichever one Utah ends up with is going to slot in as a clear complement to their young core. Even more so, he will probably become their franchise player. DeBonsa would be the sentimental pick. BYU product, ties to the state, but it goes beyond sentiment. He'd be walking into a frontcourt that already has size everywhere. Kessler, Markkanen, Filipowski, Jaren Jackson Jr. Adding DeBonsa's length on the wing doesn't crowd the group, but it completes it. And that's before you even get to Cody Williams, who quietly took a real step forward last season. The efficiency wasn't always pretty from start to finish, but the trajectory is. Better finishing at the rim, more controlled drives, and a defender who started using his length rather than just standing in the way. But the headline of the season is Keyonte George. He took a real third-year leap, 23.6 a night, 6 assists, and he did it on a team that had every reason to just hand him the keys and let him cook. But it wasn't just empty volume on a tank job. Will Hardy's been on record about how much more comfortable and in control George looks running the offense. Put that together, a top 2 pick is center, the front office is trying to keep, a breakout point guard and size at every position, and you've got a roster that's a lot more finished than the record suggests. I think this is a sleeper team next season. Now there's some real doubt to that, starting with Kessler. He tore his labrum 5 games into the season and didn't play again. Then he spent the back half of the year in a contract standoff with the front office. That's the kind of situation that usually ends with the guy walking out. But Kessler has been pretty direct about it. He said publicly he wants to stay in Utah, and the latest reporting has the two sides circling a deal in that $25 to $30 million range. So for now, that's not a threat to the timeline it looked like earlier in the season. The other concern is defense. Specifically, that this starting lineup, Kessler aside, hasn't had a real defensive anchor. George is a score-first guard who's still figuring out the other end. Markkanen's length doesn't always translate to discipline. And that's been the actual hole in Utah's identity for a couple of years now. Which is exactly why the Jaren Jackson Jr. trade matters more than it got credit for at the deadline. A former Defensive Player of the Year, multi-positional, the kind of weak-side rim protector that this roster has been missing. He's not a great rebounder, and that's a fair critique. But with Kessler, Markkanen, and Filipowski all around him, Utah's got enough size and bodies to cover for that specific weakness. Jackson doesn't need to do everything, he just needs to be the defensive engine, and the size around him handles the rest. So when you stack it all up, the pick, the trade, the development, the size, this isn't a vague, the future is bright pitch. It's a team that's closer to contending than people realize. And I think the Jazz are ready for that next step. And I haven't even mentioned their wildcard number 5 overall pick from last year, Ace Bailey, who will be crucial in their rise to greatness. The real question is what their ceiling looks like once this draft pick is in the fold. So I want to hear it from you. What's the best case scenario for this Jazz's roster? Drop it in the comments and I'll see you in the next one.